All it takes is an outline to know exactly where you are in Denver. Historic, iconic structures that give this city its character.
Preservation's been a big part of Denver's success.
Denver hasn't always worked this hard to protect its history, though. Back in the 1950s and 60s, a demolition derby.
A lot of this occurred around the time of urban renewal.
The Tabor Opera House, for example.
We have examples of that down near 16th Street Mall, where whole neighborhoods were wiped out.
Since then, the city has put more rules in place to protect historic structures. There are now more than 300 individually landmarked properties and 65 historic districts.
It's very successful to preserve our architectural treasures as well as our history.
To become a landmark, the owner can file an application, or community planning can, or city council, but there's also another way.
Just 3 random people who live in Denver could try to designate someone else's property.
It's called owner-opposed landmark designations. Denver just one of 4 cities that allows this. They're rare, but they have happened.
I am here in opposition to the landmark application for this building.
Like Tom's Diner, when the owner wanted to sell in 2019, a group of residents tried to protect it.
Wanting to protect what's important to the community.
The building on 123 Spear, owned by Denver 7's parent company, is another example.
It was meant to be a proud representation of a broadcast news organization.
Only one owner-opposed application has been successful. Others have resulted in give and take, like Tom's Diner, and some have failed. But fighting them is expensive, and they're not always about the building.
We're seeing a lot of cities and citizens sort of use historic preservation as a tool to prevent new development.
So now,
there are some things that are just not working.
Denver City Council is considering whether it's time to change the owner-opposed landmark process.
If it's not your property, there should be some sort of higher bar.
The city has been discussing revisions, like requiring a supermajority vote for owner-opposed landmark designations or no longer allowing 3 people with no tie to the place to file an application.
It does cause me a little bit of heartburn when we allow people who try to designate someone else's property.
We're standing in front of Carmen Court.
It used to be our home.
Gary Laura and Mary O'Hara know firsthand what it's like to fight one of these applications.
It just became it's ugly.
When they and the other owners agreed to sell the Carmen Court condos off of Spear,
all of a sudden we find out that a couple of neighbors down the street filed for us to be a historic designation.
Living there 23 years, not once had anyone ever come to us as owners saying, we think your property is historic.
So almost somebody coming through your front door and sitting in your living room without your permission.
They spent thousands fighting it, so they support the idea of changing the criteria.
There needs to be a new process, and the applicants can be somebody else, but they need to talk to the people who won.
Others, like Historic Denver, say the bar is already pretty high.
And these are robust applications that take a lot of research and labor.
Historic Denver was part of the Tom's Diner debate. The landmark ordinance did change a couple years back to encourage more dialogue between parties, and Annie Levinsky says it's working.
That dialogue has led to resolution, and the resolution is not always saving the building.
She doesn't think it has to be either or. Developers have worked around the Holy Ghost Church at Broadway in California and the Uptown Tavern on 17th Avenue and Pearl Street. So
I think that preservation and the growth of our city can go hand in hand, and that for us to be a vibrant and healthy city, that's important.
But DU law professor Sarah Schindler says the trick is striking a balance in a city that's hurting for housing.
How much do we preserve and what do we prioritize? We do want to retain what makes our cities special, but we have to find a way to do that and balance the really important need for housing.
Some other ideas the council considered: let the owners have more of a say at the landmark hearing instead of the 3 minutes they currently get to speak.
Let them make a full presentation. And don't cut them off after 3 minutes.
Many city council members seem to agree that some sort of change is needed.
There's something definitely wrong there.
They just didn't all agree on what that change should be. So for now, they'll continue to debate the idea. There are so many buildings, so many outlines that make Denver special. The challenge is to protect them. And now the question is, who should have the biggest voice in that process? Megan Lopez, Denver 7.